Okay, yeah, Chimo, greetings. Yet I say we thank you once again for joining in with us. For those who are unaware, I'm Odwirafo Kwesi Radnem Bata Akan. Odwirafo of Akwamu Mine, Amaruka, Etifimu. That is the Akwamu Nation in North America. Within Ojira Mine, the purified nation, Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people in the Western Hemisphere. So tonight, I just want to touch on a subject that we address in our Susuw medication instructor certification course. Question that came up, but it's also part of a meditative practice, something that we utilize, that we implement individually, but also when conducting sessions. And when you take the certification course and you can become certified as an instructor, you can, not only utilize this for yourself, but then when you're conducting meditation sessions, Susuw sessions, we utilize this Totemic approach. One of the aspects of utilizing the meditative process from the ancient Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, meaning African cultural perspective, which is original, of course, as we teach in the course. Susuw, or meditation, was founded by our people, Black people in Afuraka, Afuraitkai, Africa, before any other group of individuals existed on Earth. Thousands of years before India or anywhere in Eurasia, we were already practicing Susuw meditation, of course. So you'll see that the title we utilize is ABOAWA. ABOAWA, that is a term for small animal. So the term for animal in the Akan language of Ghana and Ivory Coast, as well as in ancient Kanit and Kemet, is ABOA, ABOA, which means animal. The term ABOAWA, wa being the suffix denoting small or diminutive. So ABOAWA is a small animated entity, which insects fall within that context, but they are still ABOA. They are still sacred totems. So just like you have animals that have, or for example, you have plants that have, some plants are watery, some are more fiery, like ginger and so forth. Some have more, earthy elements and so forth. So you have plant life that are totems for different forces in creation, different divinities, different abosom, as they're called in Akan, or Orisha, as they're called in Yoruba, Vodou, as they're called in the Ewe tradition, the forces that govern creation, the forces in nature, for example, the Orisha or abosom that governs solar energy of fire. There are fiery plants that carry fiery energy, like ginger and other fiery plants that you can utilize to heal, as well as, for, waging war against the enemy, poison and so forth, chemical and biological warfare. There are other plants that are more watery and soothing and so forth. Forces in nature that govern rivers and oceans and different kinds of cool energy and so forth have cool plant totems. The same is true with mineral totems. They're different based on the different force in creation. There are different minerals that carry that energy complex. So they have sacred totems for different divinities. As Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people, African Black people, we are the human totems, and only Afurakani, Afuraitkait, meaning African people, Black people, are the human totems for the forces in nature, for the abosom, the Orisha, the Vodou, and so forth. But there are also animal totems. Some animals are fiery animals, some are more earthy animals, some, fly through the air and so forth. Some are, water animals and so forth, and they carry the energetic complex of forces in nature that govern fire and water and earth and the atmosphere and various features of creation. So there are plant totems, animal totems, mineral totems, human totems. And those human totems, of course, are always within our community. So the term for animal totem, for example, is akyeneboa in the Akan tradition and so forth. But the smaller animals, the ABOAWA, the diminutive animated entities, are the insects. And we want to talk about the ABOAWA in the context of totemic meditation. Sometimes when people sit down to meditate and they say just focus on your breath or just focus on, the emptiness and so forth. In our culture, we are always seeking to invoke the divinity that governs our head, our matriclan or patriclan divinities that govern our matriclan and patriclan blood circles, as well as our Nanano Nsama for our spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors. We have a direct relationship with the forces in creation as Black people. So we align our thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order through aligning with the forces in creation. We also get guidance from our spiritually cultivated class of ancestresses and ancestors. The Nanano Nsamafu, as they're called in Akan, they're called Aku and Akutu in ancient Kemet, Egungun and Yoruba, Kuvito and Vodun and so forth. So different titles, but we're talking about the spiritually cultivated class of ancestresses and ancestors who have the right and the responsibility and the capacity to give us guidance and so forth, and replenishing guidance and so forth. So when we're engaged in the Susuw process, the so-called meditation process, we have a specific focus. We seek to align our thoughts, intentions, and actions every moment of every day with divine order. And when we make mistakes legitimately, then we engage the ritual process, which is ancestral religion, which is comprised of the ritual incorporation of divine law and the ritual restoration of divine balance. That means through the ritual process, we incorporate those things, objects, deeds, and entities we need to incorporate in order to align our thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order. And through ritual, we reject those things, objects, deeds, and entities we need to reject in order to restore balance to our thoughts, intentions, and actions, and thus realign ourselves with divine order. So ancestral religion, no matter what form it takes, whether it's Akan or Yoruba or Basa or Fula or Ovambo or Fang or Lobi or, various forms, as well as the forms that we preserve in our blood circles in the Western Hemisphere, the Hoodoo tradition in North America, which is the Akan tradition in North America, the Juju tradition in North America, which is the Yoruba tradition in North America, the Voodoo tradition in North America, which is Ewe, the Fang tradition, the Ngangan tradition, which is the Fang tradition in North America, the Wanga tradition, which is Ovambo, the various traditions we preserve, the ritual incorporation of divine law and the ritual restoration of divine balance. This is the essence of ancestral religion, the expansive and contractive poles of ancestral religion. It's through these processes that we align ourselves with the Great Mother and Great Father, Supreme Being, perpetually. So, part of that process is when we engage the ritual process, whether it's ritual song, ritual chant, ritual prayer, ritual dance, ritual Susuw, or meditation. These are different gateways to the spirit realm. And when we engage in Susuw, we have a specific focus. We want to realign our thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order through the agency of invoking the forces that govern all of creation and the spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors within our spirit genetic blood circles. So our focus is direct. It's not just abstract. We have a specific focus. And in that process, when we invoke the specific ABOAWA, certain animal totems that are associated with the divinities that govern us, we realign with these forces in creation. So we want to look at that. Now, as you can see here, this is the Ajenjensu. That is the Akan term for the dragonfly. That's the image you see on the screen here. Then you see, this is an image from early period in Kemet, and you see the relief sculpture of the dragonfly there as well, sacred animal totem. So we did a short article on Ajenjensu just to give you an example of what we're discussing. And we published this article a while back on our WordPress page. So let's go to that. Okay, so Ajenjensu, dragonfly, and divination in Hoodoo. So we're talking about how the Hoodoo tradition is the Akan tradition in North America. So Akan terms like Undu and Kanche. Undu became Hoodoo in North America. Kanche to utter incantations to bring the spirits forward. That's Ka and Che. Ka meaning to speak, utter, say, or tell, and Che The coming forward is in the coming forward of the sun. So kanche means to utter incantations to bring the spirits forward. Kanche came to be pronounced kanje, and conjure man, conjure woman, later mispronounced as conjure. So hoodoo and conjure, but that's undu and kanche. The moja, which means the ritual blood and talisman and so forth, and the Akan became mojo. The ja and ja padie, or eja padie, and so forth, the jack and jack ball. The haint spirit comes from hintin. Jo became shout, and komfo or komfua became gofua, and gofa dust, and gofa doctor, and so forth. So we went into detail about that, just proving linguistically and culturally that Akan tradition in North America is the hoodoo tradition. And of course, we did a film on that as well. So we talk about the Susuw is the term for a dragonfly. It's an akyeneboa, and that is the full term for animal totem. ABOAWA, once again, is the animal. Akyene is that which shows the animal or is a sign of the sacred animal and so forth. Now, the Susuw is considered the one who purifies water. Sometimes in Yonkumpon is the term for creator in ancient Kemet. He's recognized as the great Susuw. Now, let me stop right there and just show you a quick representation, right, of a second. I want to make sure that when we mention certain names and so forth, you have the proper context. Okay, so this is one of the 31 books that I've published. You can download all 31 of the books I published for free from my publications page on the website. But the book was about how the creator of the universe, Ra, and the creatress of the universe, Ra'et, the creator and creatress, worked together as a divine unit, as the great spirit of the supreme being. In the Akan language and culture, Ra, his major title is Inyonkumpon, and Ra'et, the creatress, her major title is Inyonkunton. So there's the creator and creatress. So when we mention that, we just wanted to show that we're talking about the same forces in creation. We just have different titles for them. All right. But let me go back to this. Okay. So the Susuw in Akan culture is the one that purifies water, the dragonfly, and so forth. Recognize the creator of the universe, Ra, or Yonkumpon, is recognized as the great Susuw, the great dragonfly, and so forth. The Akan term Jane means to be pure, clear, still of water, to be sincere, to gaze, and the term Nsu means water. So, hold on a second. So the term Jane is a reduplication of Jane, brings more emphasis to the qualities of purity, clarity, stillness, sincerity, clear gazing, and so forth. Hold on a second. This is WordPress is moving a little slow. So dragonfly, they live underwater for most of its life. The dragonfly does, later emerging after its metamorphosis to traverse the sky. The eyes of the Susuw wrap around his head, giving it nearly 360 degrees in the context of a view of the world. As a sacred animal totem, Susuw carries the power, the tumi, the divine power, the potency to purify, to make clear, and make still for sincerity and clarity of gazing. This is the foundation of the method of Adebisa called water gazing. So, in that context, when we're talking about Susuw, let me just pull this back. And you see the eyes and so forth of the totem that are wrapped around the head for that view, circumspect view, and so forth. So when we invoke the spirit of the divinity through the animal totem, or simply focusing our energy when we're in the form of, Susuw or meditation, and bringing that entity up, that geometric form up in our consciousness, that form itself pulls and magnetizes the energy of that particular spirit, not only the spirit of the ABOAWA, the animal itself, but also the divinity connected to the animal and so forth, to the totem. The totem is like the child of the animal, the child of the divinity and so forth. The animal totem is. So when you call on the animal and bring that energy forward and so forth, just like when you have a pet and you call the animal and it runs to you and it has its own energy complex and so forth. When you call forth that spirit animal, that ABOAWA and so forth in this context, the divinity that governs that energy complex of that animal, you provoke that divinity's energy as well. So we call on Akan as a focal point for Susuw meditation. Then you stimulate the energy of Ra as well as Ra'at in Yonkumpon as well as in Yonkunton, but also you're stimulating that aspect of the divinity's energy that allows you to be still, to be pure, to be clear, to gain clarity when you're, pure clarity, gazing and so forth. And it talked about still like water, purification of the water so you can be still and clear. When you have still water, the still water is clear. Of course, when it's rumbling, then you can't see all the way to the bottom and so forth. But when the water becomes clear and still and so forth, then it's clear and you can see in depth. When you still yourself, you become clear, you can gain clarity, you can see in depth and so forth. That is also a reference towards the form of adebisa or divination, which is called water gazing, where we pour water in a specific vessel or go to a natural body of water, but pouring water in a specific vessel and so forth, invoking the Abosom, the forces of nature, evoking the Nsamanfo, the ancestral spirits, staring into the bowl, and then they communicate with us through that entity, through that structure and so forth. That is a major form of divination throughout, not only on the continent of Afuraka, Afuraitkait, Africa, but also in the Western Hemisphere. That's a major form of adebisa or divination that we utilize in the Hoodoo tradition, within our Jasedan, within our shrine house and so forth, and many other, Black traditions do that as well. So, but that's one form. So when you utilize a form like this, like Akan, when you engage in Susuw meditation and you invoke the divinity through the agency of the ABOAWA, Akan, not only you're not just simply focusing on an image, the spiritual animal totem, the spirit of Akan, the spirit of an ABOAWA, Akan is sent to you, just like someone can send their dog to run and take something to you, and then the dog runs over to you, and they have a newspaper in their mouth and they give it to you, or the owner tells you the dog to grab something and take it to you and so forth, and they do that. In the same context, the Nsamanfo, the ancestresses and ancestors, will send an animal totem, sometimes a physical animal, to bring a message, a warning and so forth, to show up at a specific time. But sometimes, of course, ritually, they will send, the spirit of an ABOAWA, in this context, Akan. When you're engaged in a ritual process or practice, they will send the spirit of that entity. You will not only see that, but you'll also invest yourself in the energy of that spirit animal, that ABOAWA, in the context of the spirit animal and so forth. Take advantage of that energy and realign yourself and gain some clarity and openness and so forth. So we utilize ABOAWA totems in this context, the diminutive animals, as part of that process. So let's look at a little bit more information here. So, purified, make clear, make still for sincerity and clarity of gauging. This is why that animal is given the name Akan, because that's the function that it executes in the world. So therefore, spiritually, it has that same function. We also note that going underwater, and of course we say the dragonfly spends most of its time underwater and so forth before it, turns into this new entity and goes into the sky and so forth. But going underwater is akin to entering into the spirit realm. Going under, as its gateway, is the watery realm. Going under is also related to spirit possession. Going under is related to initiation also, as certain classes of spirits take us underwater to teach Ndu medicine and so forth. So when you invoke an ABOAWA like Akan, like the one who purifies and makes clear and still and so forth, we say we must be still so that we can clearly see. ABOAWA has that panoramic view. So even if you're engaged in ritual practice and the Nsamanfo, the ancestral spirits, send Akan to you, they're showing you that you need to be still so that you can gain clarity. You need to invest yourself in that energy. You need to take advantage of the reality that you can have a panoramic view of any issue so you can understand where the conflicts are and how to resolve them and so forth. They're reminding you of the capacity you have and also what you're doing to put yourself out of alignment with that. So we say we must be still so that we can clearly see, panoramic view. So the stillness that is gained by aligning with Akan allows us to clearly see, just like the stillness of the water allows us to see in depth, and therefore convey to querents of the oracle what the Abosom and Nananome and for the deities and ancestral spirits who are cultivated are showing us in the divinatory process for the purposes of healing and protection. Now, and then we also show the reference that and relate the fact that when Ra is shown in ancient Kemet to sail in the night boat of the sun in the underworld for 12 hours of the night and later re-emerges. Hold on a second. Later re-emerges at sunrise to traverse the sky in the boat of the sun, the day boat. It mirrors the submergence of Akan for introspection, which is the night, the underwater, the world, and emergence for purification, clarity, shining light, day, sky on circumstances and events that were unclear to the querents of the oracle. So when we're talking about, similar to when we say Akan, the dragonfly lives underwater for most of its life, later emerging after its metamorphosis, similar to a butterfly, operant as a caterpillar at first, and then eventually, transforming into this entity that traverses the sky and so forth. So when the Nsamanfo send Akan in a dream or send Akan when you're engaged in ritual, whether it's ritual Susuw, meditation, or ritual Ijum, ritual song and so forth, and they're sending this particular, ABOAWA, this sacred animal totem and so forth, then they're sending certain messages showing you what your capacities are, but also sometimes showing you where you're lacking at the moment and what you're doing that is placing you out of alignment, and specifically what you need to get in alignment with this specific issue or time in your life. Just like you can become ill physically because you're deficient in vitamin K, or you can become ill because you're deficient in vitamin B, or you can become ill because you're deficient in vitamin C. So based on what your deficiency is, then you need to grab that specific herb or some form of plant life or mineral life to, take care of that deficiency. In the same context, if we're spiritually out of balance, we may be out of balance because we're out of alignment with this specific aspect of creation that Akan governs. So they will send Akan to you in the form of a physical, you go outside to get in your car and you're swamped with a bunch of dragonflies and so forth at a critical moment in your life when you've been asking for clarity on a specific thing, or when you're in ritual or in a dream at night, they will send Akan because that's the energy complex you need to invest yourself in, to invoke, to clear out that deficit and realign yourself with order in this specific, situation. So that's one of the ways that ABOAWA, animal totems in the context of ABOAWA, the diminutive animals and so forth, animated forces are utilized. Let me just go down a little bit. Now, to give a little bit of further context, we say the body of Susuw is dried out and placed on the Nkombre, which is the term for shrine that we use here in North America, an Akan term and so forth. So the shrine of a divinity, shrine of the water gazer for divination in the Hoodoo tradition. So this is literally a mummification process preserved in Hoodoo and is directly derived of the mummiform manifestation of Ra in Yonkopan, the great Susuw, as he is preserved and impenetrable in the sacred white bandages cloth while performing his functions, regeneration at nighttime, illumination during the day. So let me show you that image as well. So when we're talking about Ra sitting in the boat of the sun, this is one of the so this is one of the other books I've published, Afuraka, Afuraitkait, the origin of the term Africa. And we prove that Africa comes from Afuraka, the land, Kav Afura, which is a title of Ra the Creator, and Afuraitkait, the land of the Creatress. But here you have Ra in the form of a falcon-headed male divinity seated in the boat of the Aten, boat of the sun, sailing across the sky and carrying the solar disk across the sky during the day. And then you see him as Afura, the flat-horn ram divinity, when that solar energy is moving in the underworld in the 12 hours of the night. After the sun sets in the west and moves through the quote-unquote underworld for the 12 hours of the night, he takes the form of Afura, the flat-horn ram, land animal, and so forth. But then once he gets to the 12th hour of the night at dawn and so forth, he gets out of the boat of the underworld, gets back in the boat of the day, goes up in the sky and transforms into that great falcon in the sky. So that is the symbolism. But when they talked about the mummified form of Ra, the purified one, the impenetrable one, and so forth, when we talk about mummies in ancient Kemet who were preserved 5,000 years ago, and they're still, when they're unwrapped today, it's like they were just, wrapped yesterday and so forth. We're talking about the purification process, the solidification or crystallization of the entity. We utilize the mummification process to literally turn the body into a crystal. We crystallize the body, and once it's a crystal, it is the most potent ancestral shrine you can have, is the body that you previously dwelled in as a spirit living in the world. When your spirit separates from the body, if you have a process to crystallize it or harden it or mummify it and turn it into a literal crystal, and this is what we would do with mummification, then just like you have a crystal or you have a talisman and so forth that carries energy, a talisman like this is no different than a battery. You charge a battery so you can utilize it to power things. When you have a crystal or you have stones or you have certain sacred implements, shells and so forth, we place them on the ancestral shrine or the shrine of the divinity to charge that implement up and so forth, and becomes a battery for the energy of that specific divinity or set of ancestral spirits and so forth that we can provoke and utilize, just like you take the battery once it's charged, put it back in your phone so you can utilize it to charge and power your device. We do the same thing. So when we crystallize the body, it becomes a potent ancestral shrine, a magnet for the spirit of the individual who previously, took up residence in that body until they transition. So, but that is the reference that we're talking about in the context of where we're talking about Susuw and the relationship. So the body of Susuw, whether it's Susuw, whether it's a, dragonfly or some other animal totem, when you see in the Hoodoo tradition, as well as the traditions on the continent where you see the dried body of an animal, or bones, or the skull of a crocodile and so forth at a shrine. It's a magnet for the energy of specifically the divinity that governs that particular totem. So that's one expression. That's one expression of utilizing an animal totem in the context of meditation to realign yourself, refocus yourself, and so forth. Now, there's another expression of that we want to touch on right quick. And tonight we're not going to stay long. I just wanted to touch on a couple of these examples. So we use another example of the wasp, right? So that's a different kind of example. It's a different manifestation of this use of ABOAWA in totemic meditation, utilizing totems, akyeneboa, in Susuw in meditation for your realignment and purification and so forth. We did a short article and we were talking about, and let me bring up another image for you. Okay. We're talking about ritual in the context of certain animal totems like this. So you see here, this is an initiate in the Yoruba tradition. You see the head is shaved and so forth. They, you go to get initiated, they shave the head and they make certain marks in the head, certain incisions, and then medicine is placed in the incision. The same is true in the Akan tradition as well. Let me bring up another image for you. And you'll see, just like you see in Ancient Kemet with the priests, heads are shaved, and you see they don't have any facial hair, and they shave their heads and so forth. You see the same thing in the Akan tradition amongst priests and priestesses, as well as, royals. You see them with their heads shaved and so forth. And especially if someone's going through initiatory process, or some form of ritual practice and so forth, but necessary. When the head is shaved, certain marks are made in the head, and medicine, nduru is placed in the incisions and so forth. And the medicine that's placed is connected to a specific force in nature, which makes the body magnetizing for that force in nature to take up residence and possess and so forth. So that's part of that process of making the ritual incision, placing the medicine in the incision to draw the spirit, as a magnet for spirit possession and spirit communication. So we've done that, for thousands of years. We learned that directly from the forces in nature themselves. Where does that come from? Where does that ritual practice come from, and how is it manifest in different ways? So in one of the other books that we published called Kemet Hina Ntoro, The Black Nation and Divinity. And this is another book, of course, you can download for free. We published this book a few years back. We go into detail about the origins of that process as manifest ritually and through the symbolism of ancient Kemet. So this is the book, Kemet Hina Ntoro. And that means the Black Nation and Divinity. And it was comprised of two different articles. We wrote an article on the origin of the term Kemet, which means black, and of course the black land, black country, which is quote unquote Egypt, but we called it ancient Kemet in the language and so forth. It means the black country, but also the country of the black people and so forth, dark brown people with black undertones. And then we also, so that's that first article we were talking about the origin of the name Kemet, and then also how it's found in the Akan language as well. So it's Akwamu Jaman and the origin and meaning of the name Kemet. And then the second article, that's the second half of the book, Ntoro, origin and meaning of the term quote unquote netter, as many people say, or nter, but it's ntoro and Akan. The origin and meaning of the term ntoro, deity, as defined in ancient Kemet and Akan culture. So let's go down to that one, because this is where we talk about the notion of that ritual practice. And so very often what you will see is a seated divinity with the beard, and they're shrouded, mummified, and so forth. So they're sitting down with the knees up, and you see an axe in front of them, and that is the symbol for deity. In the Medutu, when you see the axe, that's the symbol for the term Ntoro. Males, Ntoro, that's the term for deity. God, Ntorot, with a T, Ntorot, is the term for deity, female, or goddess. So Ntoro, Ntorot, God, goddess. So, but they use the symbol of an axe to represent that. Sometimes they spell it out with the symbol for the letter N, the wavy line, and then the T, and then the symbol for the R, and so forth, Ntoro. But sometimes they'll just draw the image of an axe, and people know that's Ntoro, that means divinity. So why would they use an axe? That's the key point. Now let me scroll down a little bit. But so the great, so it means divinity, deity. Of course, the great Ntoro and Ntorot, the great deity, the great mother and great father. This is from the temple of Apet Reset, so-called Luxor. This is Amen, the great god, the great Ntoro, male. And this is Amenet, the great mother. And together they comprise the supreme being. And of course, you know, the whites in our spring use Amen or Amin at the end of their prayers in the fake religions of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, but they stole that from the title of the male divinity, Amen. Now, this is the term. They'll say netters, Toro, as vocalized in our Akan tradition. We show the actual spelling. This is the wavy line for N, the loaf of bread for the T, and the open mouth symbol for the R. So this NTR, Toro, with the X determinative symbol. Another way to spell it is the NTR symbols with the falcon on the standard that represents divinity. Another way to spell it is the NTR. The wavy line is the N, the loaf of bread, the little half circle is the T, the ovular symbol, the open mouth, when you open your mouth like that, that's the sound. So you have NTR here, then the determinative is the X, Toro, plus the X, or NTR, the wavy line N, the loaf T, and the open mouth symbol R, Toro, and the determinative symbol is the falcon on the standard that represents divinity. Or you can spell it NTR and the seated, shrouded figure with the beard and so forth. If it was a female, it would be a female seated, shrouded, or mummified figure. But that represents divinity as well. So Toro, representing divinity. But the key is, very often they just simply use the axe itself. And when we go through the book, we show the reason for that. We also show in the Akan language, Toro means deity. So we're just showing that we use the same term with the same meaning for thousands of years. But the key point is this. And let's just get down to here's the symbol of the axe carved on a relief. And the term Aku in the language of ancient Kemet means to work with an axe and work in wood and so forth. Ku means to cut, as you can see in the Akan language. So this is the Akan dictionary. This is the language of ancient Kemet. So Aku, the axe, but it means to work in wood, to cut and all of that. Ku in Akan means to cut. Then you also have Aku, a carpenter. It's as an axe, a battle axe in ancient Kemet, and Akuma, which is a hatchet or an axe in Akan. That's the root is the term ku, meaning to cut. So we just show that to show it's the same word, same meaning, and so forth in the language of ancient Khanid and Kemet, and also in the Akan language. But the key is the word for prayer is mpai, invocation, prayer, supplication. And the reason why the word prayer being mpai is important, because what does mpai also mean? Pi means to strike, smite, to split, to rive, to cleave, to break, to split a piece of wood, to cleave wood, and so forth. So what you have is this notion of the word for prayer. When we say we pray, sound vibrations emanating from us, those sound vibrations, mpai, plural, apai, prayers. But the word pi means to split, to cleave. So if you take an axe and you split some wood, pi, you split it, and so forth. The same word meaning to pi or to split something with an axe is also the same word for prayer in the Akan language. Because when we pray, we release sound vibrations, those sound vibrations which are targeted because we're using our ancestral language. We're not praying in English, which is a corrupt, perverse set of, collection of sound vibrations, but the harmonious sound vibrations of Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit languages that reflect the sounds of creation and so forth. When we speak these ritual invocations and the sound vibrations leave us, those sound vibrations split or cleave or create an incision in the spirit realm, and then it's a gateway that's open that we can move through so that we can communicate with our spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors and the Yabosum, the divinities, in harmony. So the term pi, meaning to split, is also the term pi, meaning prayer, ritual invocation. That's the cosmology of the term pi. Now, it's also important to show pai, cleft or crack, but it's also important to show that we use the same term pe to ren, which also means to cleave, pet, which is really piet, to cut through, to split, to divide. So we're showing that the same word, meaning to split, to cut, pet, which is really piet in ancient Kemet, is the same term pi in Akan, because we speak the same language because we're the same people. So we always show that linguistically as well as culturally. When lightning strikes, it's a split, splitting the sky and so forth. Here you see the Per-A and the divinity on the head, governing the head and so forth. So the spiritual force governing the head. So what the important piece is, like, just like when the, you have shooting stars and so forth, or when the sun sets in the west, and sometimes it's like a red disk and so forth. When the spirits come down to possess us through spirit possession and spirit communication, the spirits come down is akin to an axe splitting or coming down and splitting, that spirit coming down to split the head of the individual and get inside the person and operate through the body of the person through spirit possession to touch and communicate with the community, lay hands and heal, procure herbs from, the forest and show us how to make these herbs into medicine to heal and to protect and so forth. When the spirit gets inside the body, it splits the head. When an axe comes down, it splits. When a spiritual axe comes down, the sound vibrations that split make an incision so we can enter into the spirit realm for spiritual communication and so forth. This is why pi means that. This is why we have an axe for the symbol of a deity. The term for deity is Nsoro. The symbol is the axe because the divinities are like an axe coming down. Spirit possession is like an axe. It's splitting. So you see us split the head when someone's being initiated, or sometimes for healing purposes, when someone's being initiated as a priestess or priest, akomfoa, and so forth in the Akan tradition, or Yawo and Yoruba and so forth. They split the head and put, medicine in the incision to draw the spirits to them so they get possessed on a regular basis, and they become a vessel through whom the divinities, the forces in nature that animate the sun and moon, stars, planets, oceans, rivers, earth, atmosphere, and so forth, they use the person as a vessel to communicate with the population. So that split, and then the medicine and the spirit comes down. So that's how it's done, through a curated process of priesthood, priestesshood, and so forth. It originally began when the first divinity possessed the first male and first female, and spirit possession began to happen. Now, of course, that happens every time a woman gets pregnant. A spirit enters into her body, and that's a form of spirit possession as well, because she's the host of a spirit and gives birth to the child and so forth. But with regard to ritual process, the first time a divinity possessed one of our men and women in the community, that's when this ritual process of priesthood and priestesshood began, a direct communication with the forces in nature, in real time, directly operating through the bodies of the people. But also we have this same ritual process, not only through a human totem where a human priest or priestess can cut the head and put the medicine there and invoke the spirit, and the spirit comes down, but the ABOAWA can do the same thing. And that's how we've maintained ancestral priestesses and priesthoods even in North America. So we talked about this in a presentation at our Echisai conference the first year. You can listen to that whole presentation on this channel. But we talked about this notion of the kabat, the wasp, and so forth. Now, you can have a situation where, if the ABOAWA, the specific animal totem carrying the energy of a specific divinity, is sent to you, just like they can send you a crow if that's your ancestral clan totem. They can send you, a serpent if that's the ancestral clan totem, or send an eagle or falcon, or a cat or a dog, whatever the animal totem is and so forth. And you come across these animals, they will send them to you to bring messages of wisdom or warning or admonition, or direct you towards a certain space where you need to gather some medicine and so forth. But sometimes they'll send an ABOAWA, a diminutive animated force like the kabat, so-called wasp and so forth, as part of an initiatory process. So sometimes in childhood, sometimes in adulthood. So that wasp is sent by the Nsamafo in this particular context. Not every time that it happens, but in a particular ritual context, this wasp is sent and then stings you in the back of the neck or the head and so forth. Or they send a bee, ABOAWA, it stings you and has the stinger is left in your neck or left in your head and so forth. And there's some blood, but then the venom goes down the stinger and gets into the body and so forth. What's just taking place is an animal totem, an ABOAWA, akyeneboa, in this context, akyeneboa, animal totem was sent, split your head, created an incision, placed the medicine or the venom that carries the energy of the divinity that governs that totem into your bloodstream, and now magnetize your blood to the context of you being a magnet for that particular divinity that's governed by the totem, and also governs you and your clan as well. And now you become, someone who's in service to that divinity. You have the capacity to draw that spirit in much more frequently and easily than you did previously, and you're serving as a vessel for that divinity. So that's happened on multiple occasions, whether it's an ABOAWA insect, or even, some people bitten by a snake and so forth, or scorpion sting, Serket, the scorpion and so forth, and that venom goes into the body and so forth, and the person, they experience that suffering and that pain, but it's also an initiatory process, no different than when the human totem cuts the head and places the medicine in the cut. In this context, the ABOAWA or akyeneboa, the animal totem, splits a portion of the body, places the venom or the medicine in the cut, in the incision, in the bloodstream, and transforms the individual from that point. That's a direct, curated approach to maintaining an expression of priesthood or priestesshood. We've always had that within our tradition. So, hold on a second. Okay. So now that was, I'm going to show you this book, the book where it was taken from. So that's in our, when we're talking about that axe and the splitting and the ritual context and all of that, that is in our book, Kemet Hinat and Toro. Once again, you can download that for free. The Black Nation and Divinity. And if you just type in the publications page on our site, odwirafo.com, my title, Odwirafo, and it's in the description for the video, you can get to the publications page and download all of the books. So, and we should also show, let me show this. In our, one of the courses that we taught, the RES course, Race, Etymology, Biology, Cosmology, and Divinity. So we're showing that the etymological origin of the term race comes from res in ancient Kemet. And we established race, this foolishness about white people created race, and race is a social construct and there's no biological basis. That's silly. We established the term race and the context for it, and we knew the differences between white-skinned individuals, and we spoke about that in the text of ancient Kemet, and we go into detail about that in this course, that 6-week course, which is archived. You can access that. But we were showing, just to show you that image. The symbol for the south in Kemet is the sedge plant or the nekeb plant. That's that Insuw plant. And then you have that symbol of the bee or wasp for northern Kemet. And you'll see this, the Insuw bati, or you'll see Nesu biti or Insuw bati and so forth. The Insuw, the southern plant, the plant of the south. And then you have the bat, which represents the wasp or the bee, which represents northern Kemet and so forth. The two divisions of ancient Kemet, northern Kemet, southern Kemet, and the rulership of both and so forth, the sovereignty of both. So you see the sacred ABOAWA, the sacred diminutive animal, totem and so forth, represented the entire north of the country and certain divinities and so forth. And that was throughout the entire dynastic and pre-dynastic, period of Kemet for thousands of years. So that sacred ABOAWA, animal totems, insects as animal totems in the totemic form and so forth, that's been going on for thousands of years. Now, let me just switch over. And of course, if you have any questions on any of that, you can post it in the chat room. So as you can see here, let me make sure you can see that. This is the recent flyer for our upcoming meditation instructor certification course. You see Amenhotep, the son of Hapu. This is from about 3,400 years ago. In Kemet, you see him in the traditional meditative posture, one of the traditional postures and so forth. You also see this ABOAWA spirit sculpture. And let me show you an image, a better image of that from the actual trailer of the video. So you see her in her seated posture. It's an ancient ABOAWA sculpture from the Akan people in Ivory Coast. And you'll see her in the traditional seated, traditional seated posture, sitting on her sacred, throne and so forth, in the traditional meditative posture, the Susuw posture and so forth. So we show that, as well as the ancient, so that's from Ivory Coast and West Afuraka, Afuraitkait. Then we also show Amenhotep, the son of Hapu, in the, ancient posture as well. You see them both in the background here. But we have the course coming up on August 5th, which is Monday. And part of that process is when we're talking about and we're going through the process of basic Susuw or meditation, whether you're doing it for yourself or when you become certified through our course, and you can become certified in 4 weeks. So August 5th through August 26th, that is every Monday for 4 weeks to be certified. And then you can use that certification to go out and conduct, Susuw or meditative sessions, to be paid for that. So most places, if you go to a school, after school program, women's shelter, a place of business, when people come out and they have seminars to increase work productivity or decrease stress or anxiety at the workplace, and they have someone come out and do a 20-minute, presentation where they open up for a few minutes, do a 10 or 15-minute meditative session, that they answer some questions for about 5 minutes. They'll have you come out. They'll pay you about $100, $200 for, to conduct one of those 30-minute sessions. So some people use the certification to do it full time, and some people do it part time. You can do a school one day, a business one day, a community center one day, a group therapy session at a community, mental health organization one day. People will call you out, or a cultural organization, cultural event. They may have a Kwanzaa event or something like that, and they want people to do something meditative at the beginning, or a presentation. Somebody may be doing a lecture on traditional culture, or something spiritual or cultural, and they want you to come out and do a presentation, meditation, to get everybody on the same page initially. So this is the reason we created the certification course. We have been teaching Susuw, the ancient term for meditation, from the grounded perspective, the Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit perspective, for 20 years. We first published on it 20 years ago in our Totems book, another book that you have on the, that you can download for free from our website. But we started doing the certifications this year. So that next course, the final course for the summer, is August 5th, which is next Monday, and you can sign up for that. And we have some more information on the site regarding that. But in that process, we talk about, a step-by-step process of practicing basic Susuw meditation. And part of that, one of those options, is utilizing ABOAWA and Totemic, meditation as a focal point to realign yourself with order, invoking through imagery one of these sacred ABOAWA, animal totems, and so forth, as part of the meditative process, as opposed to just, focusing on nothingness or the abyss or things like that. Because we're doing it from an original Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit perspective, African perspective, as opposed to the corruptions that manifested in India and Asia later on, once they learned about meditation from our people. So, okay. So any questions on any of that? You can post it in the chat room. We didn't want to keep you long tonight. Sometimes we'll do a 2-hour presentation. We just wanted to touch on this because it was brought up by somebody else. They were asking about animal totems, and they asked about insects with animal totems, and I don't think they were aware that we had published some articles on that and done presentations on that. But then we also talk about this in the course, so we just wanted to bring that forward as well for people who are unaware. This is part of our ritual practice. We also have on that same page, the Susuw page, we'll pull that back up. We have a number of the lives that we have done here on this channel, and we posted them all there. So this is the Susuw Meditation Instructor Certification course page, and you'll see the flyer there. Then you can register, and we have a split payment option. You can pay 50% down and then pay the balance in a couple of weeks. We also have various links to the various lives we have done on YouTube dealing specifically with Susuw, with meditation and the cosmology regarding meditation. You also can download the Nkwamuwa Whole Life Journal book. That's one of the books that we utilize in the course. And one other piece we also touch on is this one. You'll see that we have the referral fee offer. So you can receive $100 for everyone you refer to our course. So if you refer somebody, even if you're not ready to take the course next week, if you want to wait until the fall to take the course, but if you still want to refer someone who's ready to take a course and start some entrepreneurial work, once they register and sign up for the course and pay their registration fee, then we can PayPal you or Venmo you or Zelle you $100 as a referral fee for referring the individual to us. If you refer one person, you receive $100. If you refer 3 people and they register for the course, then you'll receive $300. If you refer 10 people, you receive, $1,000. But that's a way for us to reach more people. For those of you who know the work that we're doing, you reach out to the people you know. If those people have been interested in learning about how to conduct Susuw meditation sessions and to get paid for that, and they can set up their own schedule and become self-employed at least part-time, or if they want to do it full-time, people who are ready for that, you can get a referral fee for referring them. Or you can also, of course, you can take the course yourself. You can still take the course and still refer people. And when you refer people, a couple of people, that will pay for, once you get your referral fees, that'll actually pay for your course. So, or reimburse you for your tuition for the course. All right. Okay. And all you have to do really just send people to the page, because once they see this, once they see the trailer, the trailer describing the course, and they see all the different lives that we've done, as well as the flyer, of course, and the book, the Nkwamuwa Whole Life Journal, that basically sells itself. So they get all the information they need, and then they can just register. So really all you have to do is send them to the Susuw page, and it'll just take care of itself. All right. Okay, so before we log off, any questions on any of the information we put forward, or if you had a question about one of the other lives, you didn't get a chance to ask a question on that one, any of the information we put about forward, a specific subject. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. Okay, so once again, Yedase everybody for joining in with us. If you have any questions, of course, hit us up via the email associated with this account, or we're on Instagram as Odwirafo, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. But, of course, hit us up via email and we'll answer any questions. So once again, Yedase, we thank you for joining in, and Yebesha Bio, we will meet again.